Hello and welcome back to Midlife by Design. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Lori Lisai, human design teacher and midlife coach, here to help you use human design to shed the shoulds and be who you came here to be. If you are loving this pod, please remember to hit the subscribe or follow button and share it with a friend. If this episode is super helpful for you, it is bound to be helpful for a friend of yours. And check it out on YouTube. I'm wondering if you are liking YouTube. Do you like the video? I'm not sure if I should keep going with the video segment of my podcast. And so if you dig catching the pod on YouTube, then let me know in the comments if that is where you catch the pod and that you appreciate seeing it there, and I will keep on chugging. So today we are talking about why human design for midlife and perimenopause and what elements of human design actually move the needle when it comes to your symptoms. And one sort of mini spoiler is that it always comes back to self-awareness, which if you've been listening to the pod for a bit, you know is something that I preach very often. So let's dive in. Hello, beautiful midlife maven. Thank you so much for being here today with me on the Midlife by Design podcast. I am wishing you a belated happy Mother's Day and hoping that you have had a wonderful day of being spoiled and doing whatever the fuck you wanted to do. I'm actually recording this on Mother's Day, so I just finished a day full of being in my gardens and am feeling pretty good about what they look like now. Definitely ready to take a little horizontal time and read my book after I finish this pod, and just thinking about all of you lovelies who are mothers, whether that be for humans or furry friends, and also recognizing that this holiday can be a complicated one. If you have lost your mom, maybe it's your first time going through this holiday without her here in the 3D plane anyway, or maybe you lost your mom a while ago, and or maybe you're a stepmom or some other way that this holiday can be a little bit complicated. And so just holding space for you to celebrate and do what feels right for you on these days when we do recognize things that maybe feel different to you now because of your lived experience. So I am just sending love out to all of you and hoping that you had a wonderful day yesterday and that this Monday is greeting you with some sunshine. Today we're going to talk about the perimenopause playbook that your doctor never gave you. And I'm going to talk about human design because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately about perimenopause. And I've also been reading women's experience on Threads and on other social platforms, just being in it, really struggling with all of the various symptoms that come up during perimenopause. And one of the threads I was reading was actually about the different types of symptoms that come up that people don't often talk about, that are maybe the opposite of things that you might expect. For example, being cold all of the time or alternating between hot flashes and freezing cold, and just having the understanding that perimenopause is an incredibly unique experience for every woman, and how it affects each of us, how the drastic dip in estrogen affects every one of us is very individual and personal. And the most important thing to understand is that everybody's complaints are valid. They just are what they are. And it's not so much about questioning them, like, is that really your experience? Or, oh, well, that doesn't happen to me, so it must not be what's happening to you. Instead, just validating those experiences, saying, wow, that must be hard. I see you, I hear you, making sure that it's not something else going on with, checking in with your physician and making sure that you're not missing other things that may be developing in your body due to aging or whatever. And if it is, quote, just perimenopause, then understanding that all of those complaints are valid and that, yes, the dips and spikes in estrogen may very well present very differently for you as opposed to compared to some other people. And some women, I think, believe that HRT could be the silver bullet. And, once you decide to slap the patch on your ass, start taking progesterone in the evenings, whatever the case may be, however you decide to bring it into your life, I think there's folly in believing that it will be that silver bullet, because if you don't address some of the things that are coming up during this phase, you're essentially just kicking the can down the road. And what I mean by addressing them is, yes, the HRT can definitely give you some relief and help you to feel better and function better and get through some of the really challenging parts of perimenopause. And plus, also, what I'm advocating for is that you also are listening to your body and thinking about, okay, what is it that my body is trying to communicate with me with the symptoms that I'm having? And how is that a reflection of what I actually need in this phase? And we're going to talk about specifics in just a minute. If you're new here, I would highly recommend that you go back and check out episode 1, which is called What is Human Design and Why Should You Care? Because I frame it as a perimenopausal midlife woman, what difference does it make for you and how can it be helpful? And I think that episode will be really helpful, as well as if you're new, going back and finding the episode that coincides with your energy type. And I also interviewed a woman who lives that energy type, each one of the 5. And those are somewhere between episodes 1 and 23. It took me a long time to find a reflector because they're only 1% of the population. So listen to your type and then the example of the woman who is living that type. And that will give you a little bit more information about human design, about what it's like to live by your energy type. So let's talk briefly about why this phase is so fucking challenging. First of all, obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about the spikes and dips that happen with that estrogen decline over time. Our hormones are shifting, duh, and it hits women very differently than shifting hormones happen for men. And our energy is shifting as well. And oftentimes it's because it's been compounding for decades over and over, these habits that we develop over the years to fit into these boxes have a drastic effect on us, and it catches up to us by the time we've hit this phase. So it's not even kind, it's like the bill comes due. Our bodies, our energetics are finally like, pay up, sister, pay up. This is the time. We're not doing this anymore. And women in this phase oftentimes are thinking, I don't even know who I am anymore, because we're not just losing hormones. We're also in this phase of shedding our old identities and our patterns and replacing them with something that feels more like us. So, I wanted to take a few minutes and just go through high level some of the important parts of human design that I think are worthwhile spending time with in order to help support yourself through perimenopause. Because, of course, human design is how we were wired to operate before we got trained out of it. Before other people trained us not to be this way, our energetic map is our human design. And in my opinion, perimenopause is the perfect time to make our way back to that. And it's the perfect time to start seeing our bodies, if we haven't already, as partners and learn how they communicate with us very specifically. So, with your energy type as one piece of human design, this is, as you remember, how you're designed to interact with the world, how your aura functions in the world. And with manifesting generators and generators, this is oftentimes where burnout happens because you've been saying yes too much to too many things. And this is your big red flag. Like, when are you going to start fucking saying no? When are you going to start establishing some boundaries to protect that gorgeous, energetic, magnetic aura of yours? Because if it doesn't happen now, it's never going to happen. So, what are you waiting for? Projectors oftentimes get to this phase and are absolutely exhausted because they've been trying to keep up with generators. Remember, generators and man-gens are 70% of the population. Projectors are only 20% of the population. So if they've spent their entire lives not understanding that they don't have a defined sacral, they're going, again, not saying no, but trying to function like a generator versus living in their genius as guides, then yeah, they're gonna end up being exhausted. Manifestors are probably by this point so angry because they too have been trying to be consistent. I feel like consistency is the bane of a fucking manifestor's life because you're really not designed for consistency. You're designed to go hard for a period of time because you've got this amazing creative urge, and then rest hard, like even rest harder than you just went hard. And sometimes that rest period can be months. And I get it. Our society isn't built for that, right? It's not built for the way manifestor energy works yet. It's more built for generators, and it's expecting that everybody will function like a generator with a far more consistent, access to energy. But by the time manifestors reach remember, they're only 9% of the population. By the time they reach midlife, probably like, what the actual fuck? Like, why? I just feel like I'm running on fumes at this point, and I'm pissed off at everybody because I have to keep living like this. And then reflectors, by the time they reach midlife, are so drained oftentimes by just being around people who drain them and or environments that drain them, that their magic is just so sapped that they just are. I just think of them as like this pool, this puddle, in midlife. And so your energy type is a great first place to start. It's a simple place to start to get curious about how you can navigate perimenopause in a meaningful way that's truly going to support you. And my perimenopause survival guide is all about your energy type, and it gives you specifics for your energy type to support you in perimenopause, as well as different wellness tips and hacks for you. So, thinking from a way that you can support your physical body as well as your energetics. I want to talk a little bit about the centers. So, the pressure centers, if you've been living out of alignment, if you've been living not according to your design, the head and the root are the two pressure centers. They're at the top of the chart and the bottom of the chart. And the head center gives that pressure of needing to know the right answer, needing to have ideas, needing to generate ideas, needing to know. And the root center is that needing to do, needing to take action, needing to move, push, push, push. And if you've been functioning with these pressure centers, just pushing, 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 and you're feeling out of alignment there, that is stress on your nervous system in conjunction with that elevated cortisol, which can happen simply because your hormones are fluctuating as much as they are. It's like puts you into this stressful response. So all of the pressure center and these fluctuating hormones in conjunction together mean perimenopause symptoms. You end up with maybe migraines, you end up with exhaustion from trying to go, go, go. And where human design can help you is by recognizing it's the awareness of you asking yourself, oh, okay, do I have a headache right now because my head is undefined, for example, and I've been trying to come up with answers all afternoon about something that I don't know, and I've been super frustrated, and now I have a headache. So that's just as an example of where your centers can be talking to you and helping you get clarity around what happens when these perimenopause symptoms pop up. So let's talk a little bit about another center, which is kind of a hot spot in perimenopause, and that's the emotional center, right? Your solar plexus. And this is where, whatever, we get ragey. I've had a bit of that lately, where we are, quote, too emotional or, quote, too sensitive. And understanding if you are part of the 50% of the population that has the emotional solar plexus defined, where you're going to go through your emotional wave or multiple waves and have those highs and lows, understanding that, being able to track that and have that information, that self-awareness is a game changer. And if you are on the other end of the spectrum, if you're the other half of the population whose emotional solar plexus is undefined, then where are you taking on and amplifying other people's emotions? Where are you pulling in what everybody else is feeling and then pushing it back out without any energetic hygiene, establishing any boundaries? So, thinking about that and remembering this is all about self-awareness, right? So, if you're finding yourself super ragey, what's happening? What are the circumstances that are happening in your life right now? What is your definition in the emotional solar plexus? How can you hit the release valve a little bit? How can you have a little more empathy for yourself? Maybe you're in the lower part of your emotional wave. And in that case, it's understanding that this is temporary, giving yourself some self-compassion, trying to communicate with your partners and loved ones who are around you and saying, like, look, I'm in my low right now. I'm going to come out of this. It's just temporary. It'll pass. And please allow me some grace, Your undefined spleen or defined spleen, this is where you can be holding on to things that are unhealthy for you, like relationships or jobs or even toxins for too long. And this is again about energetic boundaries, but I also feel like this is really where you can start to bring in some other things to support the 3D, your body itself, adaptogens like mushroom tea, for example, or ashwagandha, or doing a cleanse if you're feeling like you're holding on to things, maybe doing a flushing out of your system, just ways to support your body if you feel like in your life you're just clenching on to things that don't feel good for you anymore, don't feel healthy for your body. I'm going to move to talk about the ajna now. And this center for me is interesting because if you have a defined ajna, it usually means that you're pretty consistent in your beliefs. And if your ajna is undefined, it means there's less consistency. It means you can see lots of different perspectives. And I think, though, during perimenopause and midlife in general, oftentimes your beliefs shift. They change because they need to in order to support who you're becoming. And so, my question, especially to you if you have a defined ajna, is are you allowing that? And or are you making it mean something about yourself if your beliefs are shifting and it's not something that you necessarily feel comfortable with? For example, did you believe that marriage is popping up in my head? Did you believe that you would be married until death do you part? And now you're thinking, maybe that might not be the case, or maybe it might look different, and are you just allowing those thoughts to come in without self-judgment? Let's talk about the throat because the head is where your ideas come in. They get filtered down into the ajna or the mind where your beliefs start to take root and then out of the throat. They come out of your mouth. So if your throat is defined, have you been suppressing that voice where you've been not saying what you want to say for years, for example, or you're finding that your beliefs are changing and you're having a hard time vocalizing those, for example. And if it's undefined, are you constantly looking for people to hear you and feel like you're never being heard? When really for you, it's about being comfortable in the silence and speaking when you feel truly called to speak versus filling in that silence. The Identity Center, I just did an episode on that last week, and I talked a lot about the idea of you shifting so much as you are in perimenopause and in midlife and allowing yourself to change, especially if this center is defined for you. Are you allowing yourself to look different? For example, I think as we age, our society is so obsessed with youth. And so my question is, how are you meeting that? How are you choosing to meet your aging body? Are you trying to hold on to the youth? Are you doing all the things to try to hold on to it? Or are you forging ahead, embracing gray hair, allowing yourself to be compassionate with the extra 5 pounds you're carrying? Are you looking in the mirror with love instead of self-criticism? And I'm also talking to myself, because we live in this society that is super visual and focused on what we look like and so obsessed with youth. And I know that for me, I'm trying to focus most on taking care of my body, doing what makes me feel good. I guess that those are the main things. Taking care of my body, like I want to treat it well and doing the things that make me feel really good. And I feel like that is and has been my prescription. And listen, it's not perfect. I look in the mirror and I definitely don't look like I did 5 years ago. And I've lost some of my muscle tone, et cetera, et cetera. And that is frustrating for me. And plus, also, I'm thinking, who are the women that I know who are older and aging, and what do they look like, and how have their bodies changed? And this process is a process. And I think what's most important is having self-compassion and understanding that you are beautiful and you are worthy at this age, even when your body is different, even when the outside looks different. And who you're becoming is even more badass and amazing with each passing day because you have more lived experience. You're this beautiful, evolving human in this body. And I think that all of those pieces that change as we age are evidence of that. Let's talk a little bit about your heart and whether you are honoring your true heart's desires, multiple. How many of your desires have you been kicking down the road? How many of them have you just been pushing off for another day? Because that kind of thing takes a toll as well. And I think that midlife is the perfect checkpoint to look at your bucket list again and say, how much of my bucket list have I actually made my way through? And maybe is it time to get serious about doing some of the things that I've been planning to do for the last 10 years, 20 years, whatever, that I haven't done because maybe I've been pushing it off until my kids are old enough or whatever. So I would encourage you to check out episode 24 about giving zero fucks and reclaiming your heart's desires, because that is a great one to help you reconnect with that heart center. And then the sacral center. And I'm thinking specifically here about the sacral center being focused on creativity. It is our creative juiciness, it's our life force. And I think about sex when I think about the sacral. In midlife, oftentimes women go through a period where it's less interesting or they have low libido. So the question with your sacral is, what does light you up? And what do you want to create? How would you like to use your creativity at this time in your life, in midlife? And there's also this push that the sacral can create to get things done. And if you're a reflector, a projector, or a manifester, then learning when enough is the key to this center. And for you, if you're in midlife and you've been operating like a generator, then again, this leads to burnout, leads to probably exacerbated perimenopause symptoms. And so for you, learning how to say no is also important. So all of these elements of human design are more than just relieving the symptoms. It's that self-awareness piece that helps you to understand that, yes, you have physical symptoms, and plus also this is your permission to support yourself the way that you actually need to be supported according to your energetics. And it's not going to necessarily be the way that your best friend is doing it, or the advice that you see on social media or on the news or in a book. Human design, and I think this whole journey through perimenopause in midlife, is an experiment. Human design is always meant to be an experiment. Figure out what works for you, ditch what doesn't. And know that it may change over time as well. Does it work for you? You can play around with it. You can see if it does. And if it doesn't, ditch it and try something else. Sometimes the things that your human design tells you are not going to be very convenient, and that's okay. I think it's all about compromise and looking at this phase of your life as an initiation. It's this time to tune in to what you need and prioritize your needs in order for you to feel the best that you can feel. There's no silver bullet. It all comes back to what you know about yourself and being in partnership with your body. Look at your human design, know that you have a blueprint for your energetics, and stop guessing about what might work for you. Start seeking to understand yourself and know that the Perimenopause Survival Guide is here to support you. It's free. The link is in the show notes. All you have to do is put in your birth time and it will generate your human design chart. And below that will be a free download that will tell you all about your energy type and how do you support yourself through perimenopause. And I created some journal prompts for you in there. Like I mentioned, the wellness practices and some tracking tools for you to be able to understand what's going on with your body. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, if you feel like you need more support, I invite you to book a call with me and we can explore some other ways that I might support you. So thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you next time. I hope this episode of Midlife by Design clarified for you where you might start your journey into human design when it comes to helping you deal with perimenopause symptoms. The Perimenopause Survival Guide is not your everyday approach to dealing with perimenopause symptoms. And honestly, I haven't seen anybody else talking about perimenopause and human design the way that I am doing. Hello, 5-line. Hello, Aquarius rising. These are some of my gifts. So snag the guide, tell all your friends. The link is in the show notes, as well as my link to book a free call if you're looking for some extra support. For this week, I'm sending you strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and the clarity to be who you came here to be.